Hi and welcome to VYAPT Growth Series. After a hiatus of over 2 years, the world seems to explode with high demands higher than 2019 levels, and many sectors are facing the issues of supply to meet the upsurge in demand globally. The potential of expected growth of business is driving them to come up with innovative solutions to cash on this extended market. As we move towards this era of growth, businesses are reevaluating their strategies to pick up a high share of the market. VYAPT Growth Series is a platform where leaders talk about their assessment of growth, sustainability, strategy, and opportunities in various sectors of businesses. In our growth series today, we have with us Dr. N Mohan, CEO of Clarks India, a name in the leather and footwear industry. Hi, Dr. Mohan. Nice to
Hi,
have you in our series.
hi, good afternoon, and thank you for welcoming me, and thank you for inviting me. I look forward to an interesting session.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan. We go ahead with our first curiosity. What is the current or upcoming innovation of the leather and footwear industry? And how is this industry creating opportunities for employment?
That's a good question. Actually, today, if you look at it, footwear and leather sector, especially from the government of India perspective, is one of the focus sectors of the 14 sectors identified, 27 sectors identified by government of India, and footwear is one of the important sector under the Make in India program. You might ask why and what are the opportunities. That's see, if you produce 1,000 pairs in India and sell 1,000 pairs in India across the value chain, right from the allied industries to the making of the footwear, to the selling of distribution of the footwear, to the retail, you create about 425 jobs. So it's a labor intensive industry. I've been kind of exposed to this industry across the world, especially in China and in Brazil, for example. And it's a right time that we are focusing on this industry today. Just to give you an opportunity, the world consumes about 24.5 billion pairs of shoes annually, right? And it's growing at a rate of 3 to 4%. When you come to the India perspective, India produces and consumes about 2.6 billion pairs. That's we have increased it because our per capita consumption, which used to be around zero point 0.7, zero point 0.8 about 8, 9 years back, has gone up to 1. Which is very, very good, important potential in this country. So when I stated about the job opportunity which this industry can provide, see today, if you look at China, China is the largest producer, and China has, if I tell you about 55 to 60% of global share in the footwear, whereas India has only about 10%. So, and if you look at our labor costs, China is about $2.60 roughly per hour, the labor cost, and India is about $0.75 per hour in terms of labor costs. So we have a great advantage. Then what is stopping us? That's a question. What is stopping us from this growth? With the government focusing and with there is abundant employable labor in the country, and what is stopping us from growing? See, evolved countries, especially China and Vietnam, they followed a model called plug and play, where there is a government and the private entrepreneurship partnerships, where the government identifies certain districts as footwear district. Today, if you look at it, when I started visiting China in the early 90s, it used to be Hong Kong based, most of the industry. Then they kind of they moved to Shenzhen, which is an adjacent thing. People can have the base in Hong Kong and travel to Shenzhen and come back in a day. They can do the day trip. They developed Shenzhen, then they moved inwards to Dongguan. And they went into Xiamen, they went into Wenzhou, they went into so many other places within China. And so in India also there is an opportunity today. We have two clusters of footwear manufacturing, especially for the exports perspective in India. One is the Kanpur-Agra belt and the Chennai to Bangalore belt, Ambur, Vanyambadi, and on this belt, which exports close to 70% of the country's exports in this. So there is a phenomenal opportunity to grow to other areas. That's one thing which I would like to highlight. The second thing is Indian footwear industry is focused from the exports perspective, is focused mainly on leather footwear. And our exports, India exports about 250 million pairs of shoes, and it's predominantly leather orientated footwear.
Mhm.
If you look at it. But if you look at the other side, the world consumes about 86% of this 24.5 billion pairs, which I just told you, in terms of the world consumption, is a non-leather footwear. Okay, and
Mhm.
India, what we consume in India within India is also 90 to 95% is non-leather footwear in India. That's the consumption in India.
Mhm.
So, what does it highlight? There is a phenomenal opportunity for us to focus on the non-leather footwear area. That's one focus area for us. Second thing, if you can create an ecosystem, non-leather footwear requires a good ecosystem. We do not have the raw materials. We all run to China for the raw materials. So we need to create an ecosystem for this non-leather footwear industry to grow. There are Taiwanese supply chain integrators who had come in, and in fact, I would just give you an example. Uh,
Mhm.
in 1998, an American gentleman who represents Taiwanese large supply chain integrator, everyone in our industry know about that company, came
Mhm.
to India. Came to India, and we went along with him. I was a young guy. Went along with him to the government, and he said one of the conditions he put forth to the government: give me an area which is populous, which has not developed. There's no industry in and around. Okay, they
Mhm.
chose a place in south of Tamil Nadu, a district which is known only for Swamijis and temples, and there's no industry out there. And I was very surprised, and I spoke to the chairman of the company, saying that, why did you choose this? Go and watch the fun. This is what he
Mhm.
said. What's the fun? In
Mhm.
2006, they signed the MOU, and
Mhm.
today they are employing 40,000 people.
Wow.
40,000 people across three sites of this. That shows, this is an industry which we can go to a greenfield, completely greenfield, and you can develop from scratch. Because I'll tell you what are the reasons. See, India has got a phenomenal amount of employable labor. And,
Mhm.
in one of the conversations which I mentioned to you, 49% of this country, population is women, and this gives a phenomenal opportunity for us to kind of develop this women empowerment. For example, I did quote it before to you, Kofi
Mhm.
Annan's quote: there is no tool for development more effective than the empowerment of women. So, this is a trade. Worldwide, you go to south of Brazil, you go to Italy, you go to China, women
Mhm.
are gainfully employed, predominantly for three reasons. Number one, and pardon my male friends for saying this, the sense of quality is much better than men. That's one. If you see your wife, I don't like to go for shopping with my wife. She will go to some 20 shops, analyze the price, analyze the quality, and then she will kind of make a buying decision. Whereas men are lazy. If you want to
Mhm.
buy something, you just go to a shop, the shop, you buy, and 5 minutes you're out. So the sense of quality in women is much better than men. That's
Mhm.
number one. The
Mhm.
second important thing is they are much more patient. This is handcrafted. Pair by pair, you do the footwear and crafted
Mhm.
shoes. So you need a lot of patience. So women have abundant in them than men. And the third is the dexterity. That's the reason worldwide women are preferred in this trade than men.
Mhm.
So in India, with 49% of our 1.5 billion population being women, there is a phenomenal opportunity for us. And also we have the demographic dividend. We have young employable labor.
Mhm.
And the other reason which why I'm saying that this is a very important industry, see, we can train someone in 6 months to this industry. We can train someone in 6 months and put him on the shop floor to start working. That's another great advantage of this industry. So
Mhm.
I want to summarize your answer to your question. Number one, there's a phenomenal potential. In fact, we
Mhm.
did a research with KPMG and as well as another research firm. The
Mhm.
domestic footwear per capita consumption will grow up to 3.5 pairs per person per year in 7 years by 2030. That means what? India will consume close to 6 billion pairs of footwear. I had kind of partnered this research and under the RGs of Confederation of Indian Footwear Industry, which I represent, and it's all
Mhm.
full of domestic footwear industry, and we wanted to kind of have where it can lead to, what is the potential, and if that is the potential 7 years down, what is the preparation we need to do now in order for us to kind of be competitive and innovate. So there is a potential of 6 billion pairs in this country in 7 years. That's one. The second is what is the export potential. I did mention to you about the labor, cost and the labor availability. These two
Mhm.
things being advantageous to us, and also this. If you look at recently, you must have heard about the supply chain disruption in Vietnam or in China and those kind of in Indonesia, and
Mhm.
the other countries like the LDC countries are too small, like Cambodia, Laos. You can walk the country from morning to evening. Laos, it's such a small country. It's an LDC country, and it also produces footwear for Walmart. And
Mhm.
then you have like Bangladesh, our neighbor, which is also kind of all these countries are more like a converter countries. The value addition is predominantly very small.
Mhm.
Everything, all material comes from China, and they just close it and they ship it. Whereas in India, we have an opportunity to create a good ecosystem. We have excellent policies in place, and we have
Mhm.
very, very ambitious government targets which we have, something to work forward to. So there is an opportunity to create this industry in a big way. That's the second point which I'd like to know. And if you ask me, what are the innovations, which are coming to in this industry? Like for example, almost 100% of the footwear which we wear eventually ends up into the landfill, which is a problem. It's an environment and other this thing, and these footwear take between 50 to 60 years to biodegrade. Let me tell
Mhm.
you, leather biodegrades faster, whereas the synthetic materials biodegrade in a large. And in that process, it emits a lot of CO2 emissions and stuff like that. So one of the people are working on innovations, from the natural materials.
Mhm.
So I have been privy to certain researchers in this industry where the shoe biodegrades in about 5 years. So I'm a fan of such things. So what happens is we need to leave a better planet for our next future generations, and we need to leave it in good this thing. And this is something which the directionally, these are the things which could be going to be in this thing. Second is the comfort. Like I come from a 200-year-old company which is Clark's,
Mhm.
and Clark's, foot health is of paramount importance, for us. Anything we do, it revolves around the foot health. Comfort, comfort, comfort. Of course, style and comfort. It has to be comfortable and look stylish too. But the
Mhm.
first and foremost thing is the comfortable. The second is, the integrity, the product integrity. Like when we claim something, it has to be 100% true. And third is, of course, the ethical business dealings, in the sense that we will not source from someone who doesn't treat ethically the employees or doesn't have the good environment manufacturing, and we'll walk away from that. We want,
Mhm.
those are the kind of things, those are the awareness which we need to bring about in this country, to be honest. So that's very important from our perspective. And comfort is another thing. And again, all your nerves, as you know, end in our footwear, in our feet. Our feet is the one which carries our entire body.
Mhm.
All these nerves have got connection to various organs of our body. So if your feet is not comfortable, and it's then you have problems, you develop problems at your older age, like arthritis,
Mhm.
hip problem, doesn't. So right from the day one, you need to kind of make sure the footwear, whatever you're doing, it's fashion. It has to be fashionable. That's a must have, but yet
Mhm.
comfortable. It has to be fashionable. If somebody looks at your shoes and say it's, oh, your shoes looks too comfortable, that's not a good comment. That
Mhm.
means it looks ugly. That's a So it has to be stylish and fashionable. At the
Mhm.
same time, it has to be very, very comfortable. And that's the thing which we do, day in and day out we do in plants. And your foot health, a good foot health gives a good mental health also. After this COVID and other things, there are a lot of researches which has come out, and it has kind of focused more on how to create the good. See, God has produced our feet
Mhm.
with free movements. If you wear a footwear where your foot is free movement and there is
Mhm.
a good air circulation, your feet is fresh. If your feet is fresh, your mind is fresh. So these are some of the things which the consumer awareness need to come about. In India, it's unfortunately a little low, but it's the marketer's responsibility to bring about those kind of awareness in the public, which generally creates a good kind of, it pushes the competition. Everyone kind of upgrades to those kind of standards. This is what I would like to kind of summarize, a long answer for your short question. Thank you.
Dr. Mohan, you rightly talked about the kind of opportunity India has, and you talked about market also in Southeast Asia, also in Asia Pacific. Um, Now, when you talked about globally, 3 to 4% is that what we are growing, but you talked about that there's a great opportunity coming up in India, and a lot of innovation is happening, a little more around growth prospects and all. Can you also talk about a little, a little more precise, primarily from the Indian context, the growth prospects of this particular industry, and how is it working towards making a sustainable future? You rightly talked about leather and non-leather, and their and the amount of time they take to probably degrade and come up with something more feasible, the amount of carbon content. So a little more emphasis on the sustainable future of this particular industry and the growth prospects of Indian market.
See, as I told you, footwear is going to be the largest category which you have to look for in the growth in this country.
Mhm, mhm,
Apparel worldwide, if you look at it, footwear follows the apparel industry worldwide.
mhm,
Be it, if you analyze the growth of footwear industry in Europe
mhm,
or in America and all, it's
mhm,
always the apparel industry sets the standards and the
mhm,
footwear industry follows. See, in the past, footwear is a functional necessity for many.
mhm,
You need something to cover your feet and carry your body from A to B. Today, footwear is not a mere functional necessity. It's a fashion statement reflecting individual attitudes. That's a kind of a thing which is kind of gone on. From the India perspective, we have to speak. We have very young population. 65% of the population less than 35 years of age, and the Gen Z, and they all kind of want brands and they all want to look fashionable because these youngsters, the peer pressure and fashionable. I'll tell you a story. If I once, since I do deal with, I used to in my previous life, I used to deal with all the many major global brands.
mhm,
I took a German brand and went and gave it to my son, who's a 17-year-old son. I said, like, look, this is one of the best product. And he being is raised in Europe, and he looked at the shoe and he said he doesn't want to be disrespectful. He said, "Thank you, Pa," and he wore it and other thing. Then I was traveling, and after about 1 year, I started cleaning the cupboard. I found the shoe still not worn that much.
mhm,
You can make out.
mhm,
So I didn't figure out the reason why this guy is not wearing it. But the younger generation think it differently. They want to be dressed to the occasion. They want to know which is the. If I had given them an Air Jordan or something like that, he would have got it like that. Air Jordan. Some of my friends make it in San Francisco.
mhm,
Once I picked up Air Jordan, I'm the hero for him. He was 12-year old or something like that. So I'm
mhm,
saying like the younger generation. It's true in India too. The younger
mhm,
generation want to be dressed to to the occasion, and then they want to be feel relevant to them at the thing. So India
mhm,
has got a phenomenal opportunity, and India,
mhm,
as a I was talking to my colleagues. I don't want to name him. He was his name is synonymous. That brand is synonymous with footwear in the country. I was
mhm,
with the MD of that company
mhm,
2 days back. I had a
mhm,
good chat with him in Delhi, and he
mhm,
says, "Look, we have the plans to double or triple our business in India. India is going to be the biggest focus. Why?
mhm,
Because we have 1.4 billion feet,
mhm,
right? And out of
mhm,
that, 65% are much more younger. And
mhm,
this is a footwear is going to be a fashion kind of thing. People are talking about 1 mile fashion. 1 mile fashion, they are looking at sliders and flip flops, which they will just wear it on and go to the next store or something like that. Those kind of concepts are coming in. So the consumption of footwear is going to go up phenomenally in this country, and we believe in it. And all the researchers and everyone are saying that. So that's a good opportunity from India perspective, and we have the opportunity to be 20% of the global consumption in 7 8 years. I'm talking about 20% because, as I told you, 24.5 billion growing at 2.5 to 3% per annum year on year, and we have a phenomenal opportunity headroom to grow. Number one, the advantage is employable labor and
mhm,
very large young population who's hungry for this consumption. And
mhm,
third is very good policies, of the government. Like for example, I am working with the state where we made a policy document recently. I
mhm,
cannot divulge for confidential nature. If
mhm,
you look at it, the gentleman came in, and I don't want to name him. He's a very renowned figure in the bureaucracy, and
mhm,
he came in and he said, like, Mohan, why can't we have factories where we can employ 100,000 people?
mhm,
That's the kind of a scale we need to think about it. We're all thinking small, incremental thinking. So
mhm,
we need to, because is there a potential? Is there a market? The answer is yes. There is a potential, there is a market. The answer is yes. So what is preventing us from going? Then we said, we tried to tell him about the plug and play model, what China or Vietnam or someone has it. Then we said we created something which is more like our own version of the plug and play model. Because being a democratic country, we are certain, what do you call, I wouldn't say that we can do certain things right, we can't do certain things. Okay, I don't want to kind of elaborate into it, but we need to find within the framework a good possibility for the FDIs to come in this trade. And worldwide, Taiwanese understand this trade much better. They have created factories in China, they have created factories in Vietnam, Indonesia, Cambodia, Bangladesh, and recently in Ethiopia too. So I'm saying, so it's our, we will learn when we get people who understand scale. Many of the Indian entrepreneurs believe in two C's, which is command and control. I need to command, I need to control everything what I need to do. Many of the Indian entrepreneurs, and so they need to open out a little bit. And the two modern C's are collate and collaborate. These are the things they need to kind of completely get out of the whole mind system and then look at the ways of collating data and information and collaborating. So that's another change which we need to bring about among ourselves. If we can bring those kind of change in thought processes, and this industry has got a phenomenal opportunity. And let me tell you, I have been part of I mentor Invest India, which is a premier organization which for this trade basically, and we have had a lot of discussions and a lot of brainstorming sessions with global players. And what is kind of preventing them to come in? The ease of doing business, basically. We talked about it. India has done very well in that, but there is still some more thing to do. We can't be complacent saying that we have done so much. But there is a push from everywhere. Today, if you go to the bureaucracy everywhere, there is a push from everywhere saying that, look, how we can ease this whole thing and how we can create more employment opportunities. So, to summarize, India has got a phenomenal opportunity. As we spoke about the consumption. And the second thing is we need to kind of improve the sustainability, do some more work on sustainability in India. Sustainability globally is a must-have. If you have a product, everyone, it's a must-have, everywhere. And that is something we need to do we have got a lot of work to do in that area, especially in the domestic footwear industry. And I'm sure, my colleagues I've sent a lot of my colleagues who are there, and they're all eager to kind of move in that direction. But I've been kind of, my exposure had been in the international trade, mostly. I worked in Thailand, I worked in China a lot. I worked in Europe, especially Spain, Portugal, and Italy, and Brazil also quite a bit. But if I look at recently, the last 2-3 years, I've been working in India and I'm looking at the industry. But it's eye-opener. The way we are developing is phenomenal. Let me tell you that. Thanks to my colleagues at SIFI, they've been giving exposure to what we need is just make them think scale a little bit. Make them think scale and professionalize a bit. And I think we will kill the world. That's what the message I want to give to you.
That's so wonderful to hear from you, because when you talked about that footwear is today, it's a fashion statement. It talks about one's attitude, and there's a huge amount of scope in India itself. And you talked about two C's, which is collate and collaborate, in order to move forward and to have path breaking thinking instead of incremental thinking, to give opportunity to Gen Z and expand further in terms of giving jobs and opportunities for people. So that was a lot of business sense coming from you, Dr. Mohan. And we move on to the third question now, which is more towards this rapid fire question. You have something to say, please go ahead.
Yeah, one thing I would like to add. This is the trade, to summarize, will make everyone, will help the government and all of us to empower women from the bottom sections of the society. And that's a great initiative, because we need to create inclusive societies. That's very important. India is a country with various caste and creed and other systems. We need to create an inclusive society, a society which is there is growth for everyone. That's what I would call as a good society. And this trade will give us that kind of a thing. That's what I would like to add on. Thank you.
So that was also a purpose coming up with what Dr. Mohan just talked about, that the purpose is how we can empower the women and how we can send a message to the society that we are inclusive in nature, and we can build a great business into this leather footwear industry and other segment as well. So we'll move on to this rapid fire questions now, and we'll have 10 questions coming up
Okay.
with you, Dr. Mohan.
Okay.
So 10 questions, and you can take a second to answer those questions. We would expect the answers to be a one word or so, may not be in statement. If at all it's required, it's okay. So I'll start with the first one. Your biggest strength.
My family and friends, I would say.
Okay. Your hidden instinct.
I always I always look at opportunity at every challenge, and that's my this thing. If there is a challenge, I'm automatically motivated to face that
What motivates you?
opportunities.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise. Footwear is a sunrise industry.
Okay. What is your favorite childhood memory?
My favorite childhood, I always dreamt of seeing the world, and my favorite childhood memory is my uncle coming from London, and I used to go in and around there to catch his attention with a view, with a hope that he'll tell me, "Oh, Mohan, I really like you, and why don't you come and live in London with me?" So, and when I look back and think about it, it's quite stupid. But nevertheless, that's a dream which I had, and that's why when everyone kind of chose to play cricket in my
Hmm.
community, I played
Hmm.
hockey, and with the Olympians. So I thought the objective is to create a niche for yourself and unabashedly own that niche. That's
That was a good one. One secret talent you have.
building relationships with people and nurturing.
Is that secret? I mean, that's quite known. I mean, the way you interact and the way you represent your ideas, it talks about your ability of building relations. Okay, so we move on. Now, this is quite good one. Which superpower would you choose? Invisibility or mind reading?
Invisibility.
Okay, so must have watched Mr. India, isn't it? Okay, book or Netflix?
Netflix.
Your favorite song?
Pal pal dil ke paas.
Okay. And your favorite lunch menu?
A simple dal chawal with some sabji. That's it.
Okay. Fair enough. So this was 10 on 10 on in this rapid fire questions. And we would move with the last question now. But before that, I think that superpower, invisibility, was a nice one. Had you been sitting there sharing about mind reading?
I don't do that. I don't do that because there's no point in doing mind reading, and I believe in invisibility. That's it.
Fair enough. So we move on to the last question now. What memorable lessons did you learn from your mentors, and how this has impacted your leadership?
There are two turning points in my life, and both are memorable lessons for me.
Mhm.
One is, I joined as a management trainee in this trade at a very young age. It's a large
Mhm.
corporation at the age of 19 and a half, I think, just turning 20. And in that company, basically, they kind of put all these management trainees into small companies, like it was a trading house. So a part of the turnover need to come from SSI industries, small scale industries. So these management trainees are put in there, and so that they get a feel of running a mini companies. Like you are responsible for finance, you're responsible for production, you're responsible for marketing, and all that. So I was
Mhm.
put in one such company, and I was doing my MBA. I thought I
Mhm.
have done very well. was a small scale industry, and they gave you a title as director. Okay, oh, 22 years, big, you're on top of the world. Then one English guy walked in, and he said he had interacted with me quite a bit. He was the English chief executive who turned around that company, and he was doing very well. And he told me, saying that, look, are you working to your potential, or you're working to target? Because there are two different things. You work to the target, you work to the potential. But you always challenge your targets, and then you somehow reach to your potential. So he said, I've got a project for you, and if you do that project, I've got something interesting for you. Then what is that project? The company over the past many years accumulated a lot of non-moving things.
Okay.
We are in the export industry. The export order gets cancelled. We are in a made-to-order business. If the order gets cancelled, then you are stuck with that material. You have to, it's a specific material you need to find. In those days, they were the rep licenses, there are certain licenses. If you import materials in that licenses, you need to sell it to the actual users. So he said, I'm taking away from you from the job, and I'm giving you this important assignment. If you do well, you come back. Otherwise, you don't come back. I'm giving you a one-way ticket to Chennai because you're a Madrasi, and Chennai has got all the industry, Chennai, Bangalore, and everything. If you do well, you can come back. So I thought the world has pretty crashed. I was dating my wife, and I was thinking, I'm finished now. That's the end of my world and everything. But something told me, look, let me give it a try. Let me try it out. And you will not believe, I have the reputation of selling buttons, garment zips, garment linings, tannery machines, buckles, soles and leather, and so many things, so on and so forth. So I went on a Bharat Darshan trip, went to Bangalore, went to Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, Amur, Vanyambadi, Kanpur, Agra, Jalandhar, and finally Delhi, and finally came back and I sold most of the things. This English guy looked at me and he said, like, look, I have not come across a guy who has, done this in my life. And I threw a very difficult challenge because, in corporate, sometimes, when you're stuck with something, I wouldn't call it as corporate politics or something like that. I would say that they would say, you have put a job, we have put a guy with an action plan to go and liquidate it. He's on the job. So your boss gets off your back for some time, waiting for the things to happen. So he never expected me to do everything 100%. I did 95% of the materials I sold. That is the day I realized my hidden potential, which is marketing and sales. So from a manufacturing, I moved into marketing and sales. Immediately, this English gentleman put me in export marketing. I was on a plane at the age of 26 to Russia to sell. So I'm saying, like, sometimes we all think there is a challenge and we don't know what's going to happen. We all get ruffled by something which is not you in the comfort zone comes to you, but eventually it turn out as an opportunity for you. So I never looked back after that instance. If I had continued in that job, I must be sitting in a 45-degree factory somewhere and then trying to make shoes. Another thing, like I am not saying that's a wrong job. I would have not perhaps be successful. This made me into a successful thing, and I could build a business. I could take a business which was just 200,000 pairs a year export to 6.5 million pairs a year export. Completely change everything in terms of customer base, in terms of this thing. So I'm saying sometimes you get a hidden talent in you which you don't realize. A challenge comes your way, and that gives you an opportunity to realize your own potential. That's one turning point of my life which I will never forget. Unfortunately, that English gentleman is no longer alive, but he kind of changed me. The second is I was living in Europe. I was living in Europe. I went to Europe when I was just 36-year old. But I've been traveling from the age of 26, as I told you, 24, across. And it was a very comfortable life in London and an excellent office in London, right next to the Buckingham Palace. And it's a very good, everything is nice, yeah, 4.5 days a week. And it's Friday afternoon, you go back. And then, it's a good life, and it's a good business also. And I could do, I was doing an innovative project of making shoe uppers in China and getting the shoes done in Italy and selling into Europe and getting the containers into Rotterdam and distributing it. It's a one-shop solution I was providing to the retailers and everything. I do design and development in Italy, source it in China, get it into Rotterdam, and deliver it at your warehouse. It's a kind of a one-stop footwear
End to
solution
end.
I'm giving to all the retailers and other things, because the
Mhm.
customer pays for the value what you create for them. So when you create this kind of a end-to-end value chain, then
Mhm.
you obviously there are margins to be had at every part of the value chain. So I
Mhm.
was doing that. Then one fine day, unfortunately, I lost that gentleman also recently passed away at the age of 86.
Mhm.
Our chairman came up to London and he said, like, look, you need to kind of go back to India. You need to go back to India, and that is where you will make your your career. And at that point of time, I was completely taken aback because I was doing an exceedingly good job in the trading, in this kind of solution, making shoes in Italy, getting the,
Mhm.
and it was something which I used to take a lot of pride. No other Indian company is doing. We are doing, so I
Mhm.
used to take a lot of pride in that
Mhm.
job.
Mhm.
So, me and my wife decided, okay, fine, we are not moving the kids back to London, and the kids are kind of, doing exceedingly well in studies, and
Mhm.
one got into Imperial, and the other had ambitions to get into Oxford. So the one got into Imperial. So I said, like the kids, you look after the younger ones, I'll look after the older ones, my parents and my mother-in-law. So I moved to India. In the
Mhm.
hindsight, if I think about it, I could not sleep for 3 weeks. Let me tell you that it was horrible. So many thoughts get into your eye. Oh, will I get a divorce? Something will happen. What will people say? You
Mhm.
know, so many thoughts were going into. But in the hindsight, it gave
Mhm.
me an opportunity to
Mhm.
create a women empowerment unit in India, which
Mhm.
may not be a paying. There are certain jobs which you do to get the fulfillment. At the end of the day,
Mhm.
you go home, you lie in the bed, you have got a fulfilling thing. You feel that
Mhm.
you're satisfied completely.
Mhm.
And in Madhya Pradesh, I was associated in a women
Mhm.
empowerment unit,
Mhm.
where even today in India, in Madhya
Mhm.
Pradesh, Eastern UP, and in Bihar, in certain women working in a factory is a taboo.
Mhm.
And let's if you see in the many other factories in the northern India, it's all male dominated, whereas in the south, it's all women. So in that kind of an environment where there are a lot of local politics and local this thing, to create a factory and run it without any unionism and other thing. I used to tell these girls, and I say, I borrowed this dialogue from Shah Rukh Khan.
Mhm.
एक गली में एक ही गुंडा रह सकता है, एक फैक्ट्री में एक ही लीडर रह सकता है. That leader is
Mhm.
me. That's what I
Mhm.
used to tell the girls, because
Mhm.
you need somebody to guide them, because their mother never worked. None of the relatives, women relatives, worked in a factory.
Mhm.
So, and sometimes what happens if you give the freedom to people who have got a lot of restrictions, some people don't know how to handle it. Okay.
True.
So
Mhm.
you need to kind of be a mentor and a guide, and then guide. Sometimes you need to do some, like a parent does, do a little bit carrot and stick management. So sometimes you need
Mhm.
to do that also. And I
Mhm.
was very, very happy, and it was a very fulfilling thing. And I could be a catalyst to change the social fabric of that place.
Mhm.
I'm happy about it. That factory is not existing because from various reasons after I left the company, they
Mhm.
decided. But being responsible for changing the social fabric of
Mhm.
that particular district. And
Mhm.
today, a lot of girls, they go and work in various factories and other things, and that was a very fulfilling experience. So I'm saying sometimes what happens is, God knows the best for you. I'm not a very religious person. I'm a
Mhm.
God-fearing person.
Mhm.
God knows the best for you. I
Mhm.
don't know which is that God, but I believe in every God. I have been to many mosques and many churches and many temples around the world.
Mhm.
But I'm
Mhm.
saying sometimes there is an opportunity come, and you think you fear in your mind. You have to take the nail out of your brain, out of your head, and
Mhm.
have a very open thinking. Look, this is a challenge which has come in, and
Mhm.
perhaps there is a way.
Mhm.
My mentor, one of my mentor, taught me, like, if you're confronted with problems,
Mhm.
you just say, perhaps there's a solution. Tell your pillow and sleep. Your brain is a supercomputer, and it will work out hundreds of solutions in the morning for you. This is
Mhm.
one Guru Mantra he gave me. The second Guru Mantra he said is, if you want to be a good conversationalist, you listen.
Mhm.
And the third thing, if you want to build the good relationships, you genuinely appreciate people. Genuinely. So these are three, four things, which I used to kind of, practice it, and which kind of helped me in my life, and I would say these are some things which people should kind of look at practicing it. That's what I would like to say. These are the two instances which changed my life, and I became a superstar marketing guy, and
Mhm.
got exposed to some 40 countries around the world because of that one particular instance. in the English speaker. The second is it gave me a different perspective of life. And when I came back to India after being exposed to West, traveled around the West and living in West and coming back to India and working out of middle of nowhere place, and it completely changed you. It made me let me put it this way, it really made made me kind of mature enough quite completely, and I started now looking things at a different perspective. That's what I would like to share. Thank you.
Dr. Mohan, the excitement which you carry in terms of the kind of mentoring which you have got and the kind of experiences which you had in your life and which actually changed your life to reach the kind of potential you actually had. This is something I was really very excited about, because when you were telling the kind of freshness it was there in your mind, and it is there in your mind. It's really exemplary. And I think the lessons which you talked about, I think all of us need to see every challenge as an opportunity, and you never know what's going to come your way. So we have to be optimistic about various things which come across our lives. Many a times ups and downs are part of our lives.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan, for being a part of VYAPT Growth Series. I think this has been an very important contribution coming from your side, and I'm sure our viewers must have learned a lot of things from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pandey, and I really enjoyed the conversations with you, and I hope it was good. Thank you very much once again. Thanks a
Thank you.
lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.